Hi, everyone, and welcome to the next segment in our Business of Medicine e-learning series. My name is Susie Laux. I'm the Communications Coordinator for Harris County Medical Society. And in this video, we're going to discuss marketing your practice. With me today is Josh Cates from 10 Peaks Media and Ahuva Turk, VP of HCMS Member Services. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Susie.
Hey, Josh, let's start things off. Can you please provide us with some insights into what physicians should consider when they're marketing their practice?
So we're really going to focus on 4 areas today. We're going to focus on a new website if you're just coming out of residency and you're ready to start your practice, search engine optimization, what it is and why it's important for attracting new patients, Google AdWords, paid advertising, and branding and media. So probably the very first thing I want to start with is the website. There are several things to consider when you're building a new website because the options are endless as well as the price tags. It's very important that you look at your website both visually, what you want it to look like and what message you want to send with your photography and your video. But now more than ever, it's really important to think about how that website is built from a technical perspective. That's probably the one problem that we face. And we've been doing this since 2005. So we've seen a lot of websites. Is clients will come to us or physicians will come to us and the site is constructed in a manner that is not going to generate new patients for them. And that's a very serious problem. And so we definitely want to consider visuals and first impression of a potential patient that's researching. We want to consider the technical aspect. We want to consider the user experience. One big thing that we have added to all of our medical website builds over the last few years is an ADA compliance tool. Now, I'm not an attorney, so I'm not giving legal advice, but an ADA compliance tool, which allows a user to change colors, font sizes, transparency, black and white, is a very helpful tool for a lot of physicians and medical practices. The other thing to consider with websites is to make sure that you're up on some key terms like Google and search engine optimization, the keywords that are going to be relevant on your website for what patients are searching for, and that you have a site that is set up technically by a professional who understands the visual aspect as well as the construction on the back end of the website so that you have something that should be generating leads for your new practice. On the point of websites, let's talk about SEO or search engine optimization. There is a lot of a lack of clarity around this topic in general. So let me give a definition and then I'll give an application. So basically the definition of SEO are efforts that are performed on your behalf, and it's the process of getting your website to show up on page 1 of Google. If you look at research data right now, they say that about 95% of all Google searches click on a search query on page 1 of Google. So if you're not on page 1 of Google, you don't exist. That's the bottom line. SEO is intended to sustain long-term growth. It is continuous work that's performed on your behalf. It is not a one-time fix. And the whole goal is to rank for keywords related to your practice. So if I am in the Woodlands and I search for the best cosmetic dentist near me, the goal with search engine optimization is that that website for that client is going to show up on page 1 of Google. If you're going to invest in one area of your practice for ongoing marketing, I would personally say that search engine optimization is what you would want to look at first. And probably a close second is going to be your Google business page management. And of course, HIPAA compliant reviews, whether that's through Google or a third party. The next thing I want to talk about on the front of Google is Google advertising. I've been in medicine personally since '97, first in non-medical home healthcare, and then in patient education and lifestyle magazines. And so I have seen quite a transition of doctors that say you should never advertise to now a very competitive marketplace where you have to advertise. So Google AdWords are a great way to do this. If you look at a funnel and think about a patient in the research and buying process, Google AdWords is going to be very low in that funnel. You're having a potential patient that's going to Google, they're searching for your service, and they're looking to engage for more information or possibly an appointment. So by buying your way to the top of a page, you can jump ahead of some of the work. So if you're coming out, you're starting a new practice, and you've just built a website, you're not going to rank on page 1. So Google advertising is a great way to get your foot in the door and start doing some advertising right away. It's also a really good tool if you're in a competitive marketplace or competitive keywords. Like I think of orthopedic surgeon. I think of podiatry, ophthalmology, some of these very dense, very high competitive specialties. Google advertising is a great way to jump ahead in your marketing campaign. Some things to think about if you're interviewing agencies like ours. Are they going to do call tracking so that you can track your patient volume? Are they going to be providing a dashboard or some kind of live reports? And are you going to get a client strategist? The biggest mistake that I see people make with advertising is they find a company that seems very proficient and then they can never prove the results. Number one rule for any medical practice is you have to know where your leads are coming from, what they're costing you, and working with a trusted partner that can prove the return on your ad spend. So that's kind of what I like to say about Google advertising. Now, let's talk about branding and media. New practice, you need video, you need photography, you need your brand message. What are you going to say about yourself? Your logo and your visual representation online matters now more than ever. And so get some good photography. Take the time to script and produce a video that talks about you, your mission as a practice. What services are you going to offer? What service areas are you in? And what are your goals for your practice? The patient-physician relationship is a very personal one, and it's important to make that connection the moment somebody lands on your website. So invest in your brand and invest the right way.
Thanks. That is great information, Josh. We really appreciate it. I have a couple of questions for you. When physicians start the marketing process, what measures of success do you recommend?
One of the things that we like to do is we like to understand what percentage of your annual expected revenue should go to marketing. Setting a budget first is so important. And you can do that internally. You can do it with a consulting firm. There are plenty of great medical consulting firms. You can do it with your marketing agency. But I think the first measure of success is just how much are you going to spend, and then do a little bit of research with your consultant or marketing firm. What should you expect to receive on that? One term that you'll hear in our industry considerably is ROAS, which is just an acronym for return on ad spend. And so if I spend $5,000 a month on advertising, how much should I be getting back? You know, a 2-time return on ad spend, 3-time return on ad spend. I can give you an example of that. We have a dental practice in Colorado Springs that we represent. We worked very closely with them to understand what a patient is worth to them on an annual basis. For this particular client, it's about $1,000 a year. Okay. Well, we know that through their advertising, they're generating about 7 to 10 new clients a month off of just one avenue that costs them about $2,000 a month. So if you do the math, they are spending about $2,000 a month and generating on average about $7,000 to $10,000 a month in net revenue, meaning the money minus their operating expenses and costs. So that's a great place to start, is establish a budget and what you feel is going to be a healthy return on that budget.
What guidelines should physicians follow when setting up a marketing budget? I
think that goes back a little bit to just having good counsel in your corner. You know, if I'm going to see my doctor, I am trusting explicitly what they're going to tell me about my health. Right. If you're meeting with a marketing firm or a consultant, you should really pick somebody that you know you're going to build a relationship and a trust with, because this is make it or break it for a lot of practices. This is either, you know, the success of bringing on more doctors and building more clinics and locations, or this is potentially months of frustration because you chose the wrong partner. So what I look at is that your marketing team and your marketing decisions should be part of a larger holistic team that you're putting around you for success as you launch your practice.
Ahuva, what role do physician staff have to play in the marketing efforts?
Well, that's a great question, Susie. And the reason for that is that your staff has an incredible and a definitive role to play, really in implementing all of your policies and certainly efforts such as marketing. So first of all, your receptionists and the folks that answer your phones make the first impression on your patients. And so it is very, very important to make sure that the right staff is hired for those positions, that they're well trained, that they are aware of how you would like your practice presented, your patient care delivered from the first moment that they reach out to your practice. And staff impacts whether the delivery of care is consistent with practice policies, image, and brand. So again, the training of the staff and your expectations of them is very, very important. Keep in mind, and this is often forgotten, that referrals are ultimately handled between physicians' staff, and studies show that they sometimes stop due to clashes between staff. So it's very important, at least once a year, hopefully more frequently, to check in on that department and find out, are there any issues? Is there anything that the physician needs to get involved in order to address any issues between staff and kind of address it quickly before it kind of festers and relationships deteriorate?
Okay, next question. As the practice successfully implements its marketing efforts to build a growing roster of referring physicians, how can the referring relationships be strengthened?
Well, that's a great question. Thank you, Susie. Relationship between referring physicians are just like any other relationship, needs to be nurtured. And so it's very important to create a tracking mechanism to track referral sources. But more than that, you need to identify all of your referring physicians and their referred payer mix and procedures. So do not focus just on volume of referrals. Focus on the revenue generated. This is ultimately the bottom line of the referrals. It's important to identify new referring physicians. These are the physicians that maybe you met at the conference, that you met at your hospital recently. Maybe you don't know each other very well, and so a little TLC is needed from you or from your staff. It's important to identify your top referring physicians and actually top referring patients. You want to understand who are they referring to you, the payer mix, and are there any issues that you should be aware of? And it's not all negative. It's not just issues, but also growth opportunities. Are their practices growing, and can your practice grow with them? And speaking of changes to the practice, yours or theirs, it's important to identify changes in referral patterns. And the reason for that, a practice of a referring physician could be growing exponentially, and maybe they need more from your practice in taking care of their patients. And so it's important for you to reach out to say, I've seen a change. I've seen a significant increase in your referral or a decrease. Tell me about your practice. What is going on? How can I partner with you better? It's very important to nurture the relationship. And nurturing involves many things. But let me touch on the highlights. One is it's important to report promptly to the referring physician. One of the complaints that I hear often is that it's impossible for me to know what happened to my patient, what happened in that visit. Report promptly. Don't poach patients. Note in your report to the referring physician that you have sent the patient back to him or her. Be available for appointments. Let's make it a positive experience that when patients call to you for an appointment, that you are available to see them in a reasonable manner so they can report back that this has been a very positive experience from setting the appointment to getting the care that they need. Now, it's important to make the referring physician look good. So it's a wonderful opportunity as you see the patient to make a note. Oh, I've known Dr. So-and-so for quite some time, and it's a pleasure working with her and her patients. Communicate with the referring physicians and the referral coordinator about changes in your practice, whatever they may be. If you have introduced telemedicine, if you have introduced various changes to your practice that impacts the kind of care or the way that you provide care to your patients. And that always goes a long way to improving communications.
That is some great information, but is there anything else you'd like to add that we haven't covered yet? It seems like you covered everything.
The Harris County Medical Society and the Texas Medical Association offer many no-cost and low-cost resources to physicians and their staff to grow the practice. You are not alone. The information can be found on our website, but you can also call us. You will speak with the staff. We are here to help.
So I think two key takeaways as we wrap this up are, number one, the old adage of you only have one chance to make a great first impression. You're going to invest money. Make sure you're spending your money wisely and investing it in a great brand image, a great logo, and a great website. The second thing that I would say is consider the idea of what your brand tone and voice is. And what I mean by that is, what is your staff going to do when the phone rings to make that patient experience exceptional?
Thank you both for your time. We really appreciate it. Can't wait.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks for having me on today.